Hey, what is up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. Today is the fifth in a short series on Reveal.js, this HTML presentation framework. We've talked about how to get it up and running, how to customize it, use themes, all this kind of stuff. Today, we're going to focus on backgrounds, media, and different layouts you can do with Reveal.js. So here's the project we've been working with over this way, and you'll see it pulled up right here, just basic slides for now. Let's go ahead and jump down here to the backgrounds, and that's where we're going to start today. So you'll see, first of all, in addition to changing background color with CSS, you can actually just do it inline here with these data attributes. So let me grab these here too, and let me add them up top, and we'll just save it and jump over this way. And so there's the first one, and there's the second one. And they're using that default background transition of fade. You might remember last time we tried to change the background transition and forgot that the backgrounds were the exact same. But if I were to come in here and say data, background, transition, and one of our other options was, I think, convex. Let's try that. We'll save it and then move away, and you'll see it actually kind of swings in and out like that. So that's kind of cool. That's one way you can actually see what the backgrounds should do when you change them, unlike last time when I didn't do that. So you can change the background to a basic color. You can also add images as backgrounds. So let me grab this one here. And this one just has a sample image. I'm going to change it out because it's not an actual image. It's just a random URL to example.com. But I can come in here to lorem ipsum. Let me grab this, and we'll jump back over this way. And I'll add this as a larger image so it's not super blurry. So we'll do like 1,000 pixels, come back over this way. And now, let's see, there's the background. All right, so you see it pull up there. And that's all you got to do. Just add it as a data-background-image. So colors, images, you can also add videos. So let's go ahead and grab this video here. I'm just going to grab this whole section tag and add another one down this way. It's just using an image from slides.com, which is the GUI editor that the creator of Reveal.js makes. And you can actually use that, pay for kind of basic tiers all the way up to more advanced tiers, which is a great way to work with Reveal.js if you don't want to worry about all this stuff. Okay, so we'll come in here and it's showing this video right in the background on top of my text. Now you need to know that when you add it as a background, it's basically going to keep the center area where your text is always visible, but your entire video won't always be visible depending on kind of where the screen is. So that's just something to be aware of. When we look at media in a second, I'll show you how to make sure that your media is always in frame for your users. Okay, so that's one other example. You can also come in here and add iframes, which is pretty cool. So let's come in here and you see you just do data background iframe and that's it. And then if you do interactive here, it says that you can actually interact with the image itself. And by default, that's set to false. So you need to actually add that. So let's add this and we'll just replace that video here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this URL from a video series I did before, and we can just add it directly in here. So I'll save this. And then this should actually repopulate this area. So let's come in here. Here's the iframe. What is the matter with this? Well, I added it to the wrong section. So that would make sense. So let's come back up here, add it here, now reload. And you can see how let's get rid of this H2. You can actually interact with it. And here's the slider we built out a couple series ago. And you can just interact with it like any other web page, which is pretty cool. I could also come in here and add like my personal blog, which I don't really do that much with, but chrispennington.blog, and save that. And now it should reload, and you can actually do all kinds of cool stuff. Like here's this setting where you can change the color and it remembers it in local storage. You can change the background. You can open up blog posts. You can do whatever you want, which is kind of cool. Once again, though, because it's a background, it's not necessarily going to always fit exactly, but that's just something to keep aware of. Okay, so we've looked at images, we've looked at videos, we've looked at colors, we've looked at iframes, and just a reminder here that you can actually add those background transitions. If you want them to all be the same, you can set that up in the config options when you initialize Reveal.js down here. By default, it's set to fade, like I mentioned. There is actually a parallax option too that you can play with, and there's an example that shows you how that works. So that's the basics of backgrounds and how you would use them. All right. Also, you can just add media. Now, by adding media, you're not adding it to the background. You're actually adding it within the frame that will always be visible to the user. So this would be how you'd add like a video or an image that you always want to be visible to the user as basically part of your presentation, not as a background element. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this video image tag. This is not, again, a section. We're going to actually add this within a slide. So let's come back up this way. Let's see. Let's get rid of, we don't need this or that. Okay, so let's get rid of these two sections we just added. But I will come in here and maybe inside this blue colored background, I'll add the video. And you'll notice it just starts playing automatically. And you could probably even hear that. That's because, let's stop that. All right, that's because by default, data-autoplay, or the config options autoplay media is set to true. You can set that to false. It shows you kind of how this attribute interacts with that global setting here. So you'll want to read about that to make sure that it's playing when you want it to and not playing when you don't want it to. It's a nice way to be able to add YouTube videos, Vimeo videos, all kinds of stuff like that. You can actually have things load lazily, which is nice. And all you have to do is change it from src to data-src. That's it, which is really nice. There's a view distance config option that says, hey, when I'm 3 slides away, start to load those elements. So that's something you may want to mess with, or 2 slides away or whatever. So that, again, would be in the config options, which you can look at here. Same thing with iframes. You can do the same thing, except in this case, if I were to add my blog as an iframe, as a media element, it would be always in view, not as a background element. It mentions how to do that, and here using iframes to include YouTube and Vimeo, and it will always autoplay those. It talks you through that depending on your settings. There's also 2 post messages that it pushes to those embedded iframes, and you can actually interact with them that way. Okay, so that's really quick on media, but hopefully that gives you enough of a sense of kind of what you can do. I also want to look at layout really briefly and then show you kind of a few special things you can do just with keyboard shortcuts in Reveal.js. Okay, so we're going to learn about fragments next time when we talk about automating or animating individual elements. But fragments basically are the way that you tell the slide when you want to see something. But you can put them in an R stack, which is just a class here you add to the div that helps you center and place multiple items on top of each other. So you get to set kind of the Z index of the elements. And you do that just like this. In fact, I won't copy it because you can see sample right here. There's the first one, there's the second one, and there's the third one. So you just stack them up just like that, and it will center everything and let you animate through them. And by adding this class fragment, which we'll learn about next time, you can animate those one after the other on a single slide. All right, next, and also there's some text options here to always take up the most size available. So if you add the class rFitText to any text, it will always take up as much of the frame as it can, whatever is available. So for here, you've got both of these here. You've got 2 H2s, and it's going to fit them both the same width as much as it can and give it as much height as it possibly can, depending on what else you have on your slide. You can also take a single element and stretch it to take up the vertical space left after all the other elements have taken up their space. So in this case, you've got an H2, and then you've got a P tag, and both of those are going to take up their normal amount based on your CSS. But on this image, they've placed a class of rStretch, which means it's going to say, hey, I want the rest of the image or the space available here. I want it to expand all the way up and take whatever space is left over. Obviously, that would be different if you're on like a TV viewing this versus an iPhone or something like that. There are some limitations here. It mentions you can only have direct descendants be stretched and only one descendant per slide. So you can't have multiple things like sharing that extra space left over. You just have to pick one that you say, hey, let this one element stretch as much as possible. And finally, on this layout, there are frames that you can add. This R frame will basically set this border around something to make it stand out. And if you wrap that R frame class in an anchor tag like this A tag here, it'll actually add a little hover state by default using Reveal's standard CSS. All right, those are a couple things I wanted to show you now. There's a few other things that are helpful just to know as far as just navigating through your presentation. The first one is you can get an overview of all slides in your deck by pressing the keyboard button O. And as soon as you do that, you can actually see all the different slides and you can jump to them, which is kind of cool. The other thing you can do is use F, and that will actually make it go full screen. Now, I've got this split here, so it's only going to show full screen on this side, and then to get out of that, you just press Escape. So those are a few other kind of ease of use things that might be helpful to know that come standard with all of Reveal.js's presentations. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful for you. Backgrounds, media, and layouts. Next time, we're going to look at animating individual elements, auto-animating, auto-slide things, printing PDFs of your presentation, and then how to distribute it when you're done. If you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe. I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.